Instead of focusing on winning arguments, we're teaching the basic fundamentals of sales and marketing and how we can use them to win in the world of politics, teaching you how to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show. Well, hey there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show. Happy Friday. Looking forward to today's conversation. It's a little bit different of an episode today. Instead of listening to yours truly sit down with a guest interviewing about topics or conversations, or heck, instead of yours truly sitting down and doing a one-on-one with you in our Brian's briefing, today we're going to do a week in review, and we're going to be joined by our good buddy Remso Martinez. But first, we're going to go ahead and give a quick shout out to, yes, AMP America, our phenomenal sponsor. Head to ampamerica.com for all the news you need to know without the extra corporate media bias or fluff. We have news articles, opinion pieces, podcasts, and more. One more time, ampamerica.com. Also, the Brian Nichols Show is powered by our phenomenal studio sponsor, Cardio Miracle. Folks, if you're looking for the best heart health supplement in the world, bar none, it's going to help improve those restless nights of sleep, improve your pump at the gym, while at the same point in time lowering your resting heart rate, lowering your blood pressure, all things I've experienced myself. Stick around. We're going to talk more about Cardio Miracle later. But first, let's move on to today's episode. Like I said, joining me from AMP America for our week in review, Remso W. Martinez. Remso, welcome back to the Brian Nichols Show. Hey, Ben, buddy.
I'm trying to get like the eyebrow of justice that The Rock had, because I want my somebody was like, were you like picking your nose or scratching your face or something last time I was on the show? And it's like, I get nervous like right the moment I go on camera. So I tried like holding this for like the past like 20 minutes and it was fine until like I just saw myself and it's like, this is gonna bother.
What do the kids call that nowadays? Like bleak or there's some word. Yeah, like you're supposed to do something with your chin and Gen Alpha, man. They got these new isms. I don't understand.
It's all ruined now. So I'm doing good. Otherwise,
you're doing good. Yeah, it's been a while, Remso, since you were on the show. And by a while is last week. Yeah, so what's been new since you last were on the show?
Well, I mean, what's new for me is new for everybody. This is an election that is straight out of like South Park. And you know, it's one of those things where I live in the world of commentary, and for the first time ever, I'm basically seeing a lot of people who have really nothing to say. And it's not because they don't have valid opinions, but because by the time they go ahead and formulate something, it's like, okay, you got to throw it out the window. Okay, we need to go ahead and gather around Trump. It's like Trump gets shot at. It's like, we need to vote for him harder. Then it's like, okay, we need to focus entirely on Biden. No, swap in the black lady. It's like, okay, Obama's going to stay out of this one because he doesn't like anybody. Oh, he just endorsed Kamala. It's like, you know, next month, we're going to be dealing with like, you know, an Independence Day Will Smith scenario where we're being invaded by aliens and stuff. It's hard enough to go ahead and stay on top of everything. It's even harder to stay on top of things, really think about what you think about them, and then have everything change out in just under a couple of hours. Yeah. It's wild. I was literally in TJ Maxx with my wife on Sunday when Biden dropped out. And I was just walking around in like the cheap clone section, and next thing you know, people start blowing up my phone. And it's like, oh, Biden's out. And I'm like, shit. I wasn't saying that because I wanted Joe to stay in or because I was like deeply impacted by Joe dropping out of the race. I was like, shoot, I have to change up all my plans this week. Got to change the emails over here. Got to change the pieces over there. Got to figure out all my talking points to go ahead and focus on cackling Kamala. And it's just like, as soon as you think you can get a weekend off, everything changes. So maybe this time we can go ahead and help people out and tell them what they missed this week.
Well, we are doing our weekend review, by the way, folks, and we are live. I see we have around 25-ish folks right now who've jumped into the live stream, jumping back and forth. So we are live. If you have questions, comments, please head down below, bring them in. We'll go ahead and read some here on the stream. But for today, we are doing.
Take my shirt off.
You're gonna take your shirt off
for 10 retweets.
10 retweets. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
You're cheap. All right, I love it.
Fun time.
We are having a fun time here on the Brian Nichols Show Week in Review. So yes, this is our AMP America Week in Review, and we are going to go through, I think we have 3 AMP America stories, and we have 1 Vice.com story, something about sea cocaine. We'll dig into that later in the episode.
Dolphins.
Yeah, those poor dolphins.
You can always count on Vice to come up with like the most wild, random stuff. It's like, it's like ad libs. It's like insert a persecuted minority group. Insert sexual preference, insert drugs, insert random country, plus fights against, and it's always either like fascism or white supremacy.
Yeah, F in the chats for the
Vice
Dolphins.
News article.
F in the chats for the Dolphins. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to check out an article written by our mutual buddy, Austin Peterson over on AMP America. Here we go. This is Austin's article, Trump, Democrats, and the Battle for America's Soul. Right now, Remso, I mean, we are at a point where America's soul really is, it's kind of like, I think, split right down the middle. You have one side of the aisle who they are entirely okay with the way things have been going. As a matter of fact, they think it needs to continue. It needs to pedal to the metal, so to speak. But also on the other side of the aisle, there is the folks, I would say more on our side of the aisle in that case, who look at what's going on and say, this is insane. This is batshit insane. And the soul for our country has been so divided in terms of these 2 different ideological splits. So talk to us, Remso. I mean, we're facing this battle for America's soul right now. Where are you seeing these battlegrounds really coming down to?
In Austin's piece, to just kind of reflect on that for a second, he really distills things down to something that I've been arguing for, which is that people are not divided based off race. People are not divided based off the things that they think they are, according to the media. We're divided on an idea of what's better for us. And I think the things that unite us is something that we've seen across a lot of the AMP America pieces, including my recent piece a couple weeks ago, which is I think that Americans are divided by class. And I know that there are probably listeners who are like, oh, he's talking about class structure. He's a Marxist. Like things like postmodern capitalism, for example. I would tell you that I believe in postmodern capitalism, which is this idea that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is shrinking. But not for the reason.
By the way, we acknowledged was happening back during the COVID pandemic with the trillions of dollars just printed out of thin air. And we called it then. We said, this is the biggest wealth transfer in human history.
Which is why, when people are like, oh, that's a Marxist point, I'm like, but it's not even that. It's because, as you just mentioned, the government got involved. It's artificial. Yes. They're picking winners and losers. They're bailing out their buddies. They are incentivizing bad behavior in the market. And because of that, you're getting these pseudo monopolies that are all government sanctioned. The government says they don't like monopolies. They only don't like monopolies they don't control. Bingo. So in that regard, that's something to focus on. But, I think a lot of people are starting to realize it's like when you look at the basics, and I know a lot of people who are very wealthy who are now starting to say, like, listen, like groceries are getting ridiculous. Gas is getting ridiculous. The concept of I can take money and put it in a high interest savings account, or I could put money over here and save it for a vacation. Those are the things that unite people. So it's this idea that we need to be united more off of our common struggle as just everyday regular people. And we need to stop being divided by the things that are, being put towards us. I think the big thing about the spirit of our nation is that we no longer see each other as people that have our mutual interests aligned. I used to get so much shit from people. I used to say that George Bush was the worst president of my lifetime. And then they'll say, Obama. And I'm just like, man, like Obama didn't do anything that Bush did not do or Bush set into motion. Obama was really just a continuation of the third term of George Bush. When you just look at everything he did, from foreign policy to socialized healthcare and everything else. I mean, Obama didn't create multiple agencies to spy on people overnight. He just took this and he was like, this looks pretty good. Well, let's go ahead and stick with it.
Me in my tan suit.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where it's like after 9/11, we all see each other as Americans. I mean, it's why George Bush had like a 70% approval rating on September 12th, 2001. And why it took,
I think it was 90, wasn't it like 91%? It was insane.
It was historic. It was like Roosevelt after Pearl Harbor. But then what you have is 3 years of just lying and gaslighting the American people. I mean, Brian, I grew up outside of a place called Fort Huachuca, Arizona. And my hometown, my hometown was a place called Sierra Vista. So, you know, big military community. I remember going to the local Cinemark, and for like a year, right before the movie played, they would go ahead and play like a montage for the Pledge of Allegiance, and people would like stand up for it. And then they played like the Star Spangled Banner and stuff like that. And it was just like, everyone is American. What they used was they used our commonalities. They used our common interests to weaponize ourselves, to go ahead and believe the most deranged shit. That's why I get upset with libertarians who are almost like anti-American to a degree. I understand where they're coming from, in the sense that the last time, you know, nationalism and patriotism were used to unite people, it was used for malicious purposes. But that has gotten to the point where it's like this idea of a common culture, a common national identity. It's so, you know, it's been bastardized so much that
they baked it into the cake. Yeah. And unnecessarily so.
Yeah. I mean, this is, it's become a sad point in America where putting the American flag out has become a political statement, and you can almost tell who somebody is. I think the soul of the country is this. We have tried to, you know, micro individualize each other to the point where the idea of community is also like the idea of setting yourself up to be like narked on by your neighbors during the next lockdown. I think it's going to take a moment of national revival. I think it's going to have to start from the ground up, and it's got to be people holding themselves and their government accountable. And those are, you know, those are basic talking points, but that's where we're at. Like, we're not the United States of America. We're the united borders of a bunch of people who collectively don't like each other.
Hey folks, I want to take a moment to talk about something that has truly changed my life, and that is Cardio Miracle, our incredible studio sponsor. Now, I'll be honest, when I first heard about Cardio Miracle and their claims about improving heart health, I was skeptical. But after using it for just about 2 months, I was absolutely blown away by the results. First, my blood pressure went from being consistently around 140/90 to a much more healthier and manageable 120/80. And my resting heart rate dropped from the low 70s to the high 50s. And I couldn't believe it. But the benefits didn't stop there. I started sleeping better, and I felt more energized at the gym, and my heart felt the best it's felt in years. And it's not just me. Hundreds of you, our amazing listeners, have reached out to share your own incredible experiences with Cardio Miracle. So, what is Cardio Miracle, and how does it work? It's a carefully crafted supplement that harnesses the power of nitric oxide to support optimal heart function. So by increasing nitric oxide levels in your blood, Cardio Miracle helps relax your blood vessels, improve circulation, and it protects your heart from damage. It's like giving your heart the support it needs to function at its best. And here's the best part. We've got an exclusive offer just for you, our loyal listeners here at the Brian Nichols Show. When you head over to cardiomiracle.com and use code TBNS at checkout, you'll get an extra 15% discount on your order. Plus, with their 100% money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if you're ready to take control of your heart health and experience the life-changing benefits of Cardio Miracle for yourself, just click the link in the show notes or video description. Trust me, your heart will thank you. And don't wait another day to prioritize your health. Join the tens of thousands of folks who have already discovered the Cardio Miracle difference. Head to cardiomiracle.com now and use code TBNS for 15% off your order. Your journey to a happier and healthier heart starts today. And now, let's get back to the show.
But we have to figure it out. And with Trump, I think, you know, when he wins, if he wins, knock on wood, it's got to be at this point where, you know, he's got to remind people, it's like, you might not like me, you might not have voted for me, but I am your president and I'm going to do what's best for you.
Yeah. So, and by the way, Remso, this kind of goes to the split you're talking about too. We're also seeing a realignment, right? And one of those realignments we're seeing is, it's something that's been happening for a while, but really it's starting to just distinctly showcase itself. And that is the fact that men are jumping into the Trump camp. They're jumping into the JD Vance camp. And a lot of it, I dare say, is it's got to do to the feminization, as Austin points out here in his article. The feminization of society is pushing men, including Black and Latino men, towards the Republican camp. The Democratic Party became the party of unmarried women, and it shows. I mean, yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm feeling too. And I'm seeing this on social media, is that since Kamala Harris has taken over as the torchbearer for the Democratic Party, the lines between the battle of the sexes, men on one side, women on the other, really seems to have reared its ugly head. And I'm seeing there's the one virtue signaling post going across the social medias right now. When you say ignorant things about women in power, they don't see it, but your wife does. Your grandmother does. Your sister does. Your daughter does. And it's their way of saying, I'm going to make it so I'm virtue signaling so you can't say mean things about Kamala Harris. So there. And it's like, okay, so that's the political conversation we're going to have. Meanwhile, men are just saying, yep, I'm done. I'm not playing this stupid game. And they're jumping to Trump in droves. Now, the question, Remso, is that enough? Is that enough to not only change the political winds back towards a Donald Trump presidency, but also is it going to be enough to save the country? And I'm not saying it's men versus women to save the country, but there has been a growing disconnect between the sexes in terms of priorities. Like, men have been looking at more of where we are from a government standpoint, a country standpoint, saying, yeah, this isn't working. Whereas it seems the women's side of the aisle, and I wish we had a woman on the show to talk about this, but it seems that that's much more focused on, well, you know, it's feelings, it's emotions, it's can we all get along, and can I feel empowered, can I feel represented, versus, you know, represented by what, and what's it accomplishing? I think that's the discrepancy I'm seeing. What say you?
I completely agree with you. And largely, elections are not about who shows up and who says they're going to show up, but who actually does. There's a reason why almost every election is dictated by the boomers. It's about who goes to the villages. It's about who's talking about Social Security and Medicaid and that type of thing. Because young people just historically don't show up. And that's not a generational thing. That's just a historic thing, because we don't see ourselves as part of the process. You know, with the Republicans being the party of, you know, like men and families, and the Democrats being the party of, like, you know, the single unmarried childless cat ladies, as JD Vance called them, and people are going after that. It's like, argue that it's not true. And what I will say is that I think that the realignment to making the Republican Party a family focused party, a working class party, you know, people got mad because, like, you had like the Teamsters union president there. Like, listen, man, like, I live in Wisconsin. Like, I have problems with the unions, but I will just, you know, I'll call a spade a spade. The unions have many problems, but they've kept, you know, bands of illegal immigrants off the streets of Milwaukee, and they've kept jobs in Wisconsin. So, you know, it might be anti-libertarian solutions to achieve, you know, safety and security and jobs security and that type of thing. But, you know, when you look at the situation, it's like, what would I rather deal with? The unions keeping that around, or Chicago, where there's really not much going on, but the police stations are flooded with bands of migrants and crime is out of the wazoo and jobs are leaving Illinois. Like, you just got to look at this and be like, you've got to, like, pick and choose the shit show you want to deal with and make your choice from there. I can definitely say, and I see this of a lot of commentators, female commentators, who are two things. Either they make more money than their man, and they might not say this matters, but it does. They either make more money than their man, or they're single and they're in their mid to late 30s. I can absolutely tell you that when I got married, my life completely changed. And I think for a lot of men, I think when men get married and when women become mothers, their whole focus in life goes from I, me to we. Yep. And it changes. And I don't think, and I see this with my friends who are even in some cases younger than I am, who have kids. They're in a different plane of life than me. They're in a different level of maturity and life focus than me, because it changes once you take that other step. You probably felt that when you became a father. Oh, you can't become a married family man and still think that, in this case, the Democratic Party has any interest of yours. If anything, they're antithetical to the family.
Well, and by the way, Remso, that goes to our next article. I love that you set me up for a segue. It's like you did that on purpose. Where are the millennials right now, right? We look at the millennials, and there really has been nobody to represent them in Washington when we're looking at, the executive branch. And JD Vance, love him or hate him, this is not a JD Vance love or hate podcast, but rather an acknowledgement. He is basically the only person we've had that's a millennial that's actually playing the role of speaking for millennials and millennial issues. Like, and by the way, again, this is not if you agree or disagree, but at least he's having a voice at the table versus trying to defer millennial, pain points and issues of concern to the likes of Nancy Pelosi or Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer, because they definitely know the struggles that millennials face. Definitely not. But this is an article from Jamie Pope, and she's talking about how JD Vance has proved that millennials and younger voters can have a seat at the adult table for once. Remso, talk to us about that. How important is it for millennials to, now that we're, yes, in our 30s and in some cases 40s, now actually having a seat at the table and having a role in deciding our public policy?
I think it's really good that Jamie was the one who wrote this, because Jamie Pope ran for state office in the state of Louisiana. She's a political activist in Louisiana policy. And, she talks about it later on. Like, she was dismissed because of her age, and she's often seen other millennials and younger folks derided as they get involved in the political process. And I think it's so funny, because I had to actually think about the other day when I was editing this piece. The arguments against JD Vance based off his age and his, quote, lack of political experience, as the Palombos out there in the world will say, it's like, he's not qualified to be vice president. It's like, I'm sorry he didn't go to, like, a fee luncheon or something. Like, calm down. But it's, it's all the same arguments that they actually tried using against Barack Obama in 2008. If you think about it, he's a junior senator. He's young. How is he supposed to go ahead and talk to the boomers who are voting on Social Security and Medicaid? They try going after that, which is why the current thing is, like, they're trying to attack him because of, the party of unwed single cat lady women's. Now they're also going after him because of his age. So Kamala is young enough. Joe is not too old, but JD Vance is too young and too inexperienced. It's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I think what Jamie really levels in this piece is, like, we've come to the point where they can't deny us this.
Yep.
Because it's not like they got some, like, if they had, I'm talking like completely hyperbolic here, if they choose somebody like a Jake Paul or a Logan Paul, that's ridiculous. But to pick somebody like JD Vance, who's been a business owner, who has led an extremely successful life, and has served enough of his first term where it's like, okay, like, it's not like he got elected yesterday. Like Josh Hawley from Missouri, and I mean, this is so funny. It's like Josh Hawley had, like, just been elected attorney general for Missouri, and then he went and immediately ran a Senate campaign. At least
that was our whole thing. So when Austin ran, that was one of his whole.
That was the climbing ladders.
The ladder thing, yeah, that's right.
The ladder thing, and this isn't really. I wouldn't put it in the same case, and I mean, I wouldn't have even said that was the same case for Obama. Maybe less, because Obama actually went and ran for president. Like, that was the thing. Like, Vance is not running for president. But it's one of these situations where now the millennials, we're going to be, within the next two major election cycles, the predominant voting class.
Yep.
And now we're having families, and now we're paying taxes, and we're growing up in a housing crisis, in a very strict, and horrible inflationary environment. Millennials have gotten to the point where it's like, we look for the adults in the room. We're the adults, guys. And Jamie points that out very well. It's like, we're the adults. And in cases like her, she's like, and we're ready to lead. Yep. We've seen enough. We've done enough. We've earned our scars. We are ready to lead. And, what she concludes the piece, if you could pull it up, I want to actually quote her on this. Let's scroll to the bottom. Okay, right there. There have been comments about not enough experience in politics. For me, that's a huge plus. Huge. How can we have all these conversations about term limits, then frown upon someone for not being a career politician? Here's to hoping for a young face with fresh ideas and unmatchable determination.
I mean, right there, Remso, that speaks to where there is a desire, I dare say a demand for some fresh blood at the table, right? Like who was the GOP just surprise star over the past 12 months? Vivek Ramaswamy. He came out of nowhere. Like Vivek's been on the national scene for a couple of years, but in terms of actually like becoming a persona, the Republican primary, he went out guns a blazing. I mean, listening to the podcast that Vivek did too was very entertaining because you got to hear his approach. And he's very transparent. He's like, Ron's a nice guy, but I'm not going to spend my time and energy on Ron because, frankly, I don't think he really knows what he's supposed to be saying. He's just waiting to be told what to say. I think he's a nice dude. I'll let him do his thing. Who did Vivek spend his time, energy, and efforts going after? Nikki freaking Haley. Why? Because Nikki Haley is the embodiment of the GOP from yesteryear. She was on the board of Boeing. She is bought and paid for by the big entities like Raytheon, like Halliburton. And I dare say if we dig in enough, we're going to find all the tried and true names like brought to you by Pfizer, stuff like that. And Nikki Haley, she absolutely needed to be shut down during the GOP primaries because not only I think the GOP voter across the board is tired of the GOP from yesteryear, but it goes back to millennials are so tired of being lectured to by the older generations about how we just don't know what we don't know. We don't have the life experience. We will figure it out when we're older. Okay, that might be true when we're like 16. Guys, we're in our 30s now, in our 40s now. We've got careers, we've got families, we've been hired and fired, and we've had tragedies, we've had great instances in our lives. We've been through a lot of shit, and it's so demeaning for those older generations to sit there and say like, "Oh, well, you're not old enough yet. You're not mature enough yet." It's like, no. The millennials, we're the ones who are actually making things happen. We're the ones who are in those jobs right now that you used to hold 20, 30 years ago. We're the ones making the infrastructure, making the things that you built. Yes, older generations, you built, but we're the ones keeping them working and trying to bring them forward to the next level. And there is such a disrespect when it comes from these older generations towards the younger generations. And man, I'm praying that come 2028, 2032, like we are not just getting some fresh blood in the nomination process, but I'm hoping that we can see across the board, right? Like I would love to see millennials leading both the Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, Independent. I don't care which party. I want to see more millennials at the table because we're the ones who need to have our voices heard because we're the ones making shit happen.
Yeah, I say that, the one thing that AOC, for example, and Vivek Ramaswamy have is they both represent like the Van Wilder generation. They're like those elder millennials that grew up to remember enough of George Bush, and they probably voted for Obama in their first election. And over time, as they start to just kind of see the churn and burn of the political nature, the one thing that you can expect from Vivek on the right and AOC on the left is that they're going to tell you exactly how it is. Millennials lost the filter because what we crave is we crave authenticity, whether we agree or not. We crave authenticity.
My podcasts, by the way, are doing so well because you don't have the 3-minute news segment to hide your inauthenticity. You have to be willing to speak for an hour, 2, 3 hours, completely unfiltered as you are. Sorry.
No, exactly. And, it's one of those things where it's that elder millennial generation, which I think represents like the last great generation in America for all the problems that millennials have brought on. Like we know what matters. And it's one of those situations where it's like they keep wanting us to focus on the things that only matter to them. And by them, I'm not even talking the establishment. I'm talking the boomers. They kept talking about inflation in the 2022 midterms. I'm like, inflation is not the thing that you're going to win on. Why did it matter?
2 more years before that, fucking COVID. They were going through like, you need to get your shots. Why? To save us. It's like, but why can't you take the shot and it protects you? You need to take the shot because if you don't, you could spread it. It's like, but you took it. Aren't you safe? Isn't that the argument? Oh, no. It's our science, not your science, our science.
And I mean, you look at the top lobbying groups like AARP and others, they represent a generation where it's like the national conversation is being dictated by a portion of the population that is setting policies in place that they will not have to face the repercussions for 20 years from now.
Nor
Like,
do they understand, frankly.
yeah. Like they don't talk about saving Social Security for the next generation. It's always save Social Security until we die.
For us.
Yeah. Like that's what it comes down to. So, I mean, even when, you know, when AOC does something stupid, when she talks about housing, I'm on there with her. You know, she identifies the problem. Bad solutions, she identifies the problem. Student loan debt, inflation, you know, all that stuff. Like that is the stuff where it's like, yeah, millennials are listening to her because at least she's talking about those problems. And JD Vance can talk about those exact same things because he's living in it with us.
Well, and that goes to where I think, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Remso, I think we're seeing a big flip right now in the American electorate. And this is all anecdotal, right? But I've been seeing it myself, like social media folks that I know for a fact, like back when we were in college, they were, you know, college Democrats. They were, you know, they were Bernie bros. They were AOC fans. And you fast forward to today, and I'm seeing them post like the one, I forget the guy's name, but he does those videos where it's just him deadpan talking to the camera, and he's like, they say that the jab was supposed to stop blah blah blah, and yet they've got their fourth jab. Like that guy. I don't know the guy's name. I've shared some of his shit before, but like I'm seeing folks from the Bernie bro camp sharing that stuff now, and I'm like, is it my sales mentality of once they see it, they can't unsee it? Like, have they just seen too much now that they can't unsee all the bullshit? Like they can't, like once you see it, you can't then cover up the bullshit with the narrative, the fake stuff, because you know the truth, and it just makes you feel icky. And I'm seeing more and more and more of that. Do you think that there is something happening with the American electorate? And again, parties be damned, but just the switch going from that, you know, the boomer generation now going back, or not saying going back, now actually going towards the millennials? Like, is that happening?
Yeah, I don't think that millennials are necessarily going to matter as much this election. I think, you know, and I mean, it's even a little bit more different because, you know, we were all thinking, and I have to like change my mindset towards this. We were all thinking, oh, it's just Trump Biden part 2.
Yep.
But now it's Trump Harris. But Harris has done so little to make herself seem remotely impressive to people that, you know, it still feels like, oh, she's just carrying Joe at this point. She's just carrying Obama 3.0 and making Obama 4.0. And what people are seeing is that doesn't work. You know, I remember during the 2012 election, they were like, oh, America's problems are irreversible and these are permanent. And what did Trump do in one term? He took a lot of those permanent things that were never supposed to die, and he killed a lot of them.
Yep.
I think the election that's going to matter ultimately is 2028, because sadly, we're going to have to go through this again with brand new people. And it's the talking points are going to be different. The world is going to be completely different. I think that and here's my prediction for 2028. I think that both parties will I think that both parties will nominate millennials to be their nominees. I think it's going to be people probably in like that, you know, Gen Xer era. So maybe I'll go as far as like, say like 38 to 50. It will be candidates between 38 to 50. And that's where I think we're going, because things have changed to the point now where, you know, maybe like 50 years from now, we'll be the boomers, Brian. But ultimately, you know, the focus on, you know, polite politics, you know, the party of Social Security, I see us getting to the point where it's like Social Security doesn't even matter as a topic for people. It's not that it won't be around. I'm not saying that they're even going to eliminate it
for our generation. Like, yeah, I think our generation's pretty much come to grips with the fact that money's gone. Like,
yeah,
I'm not pretending that I'm going to get a Social Security check, and I don't hear a lot of other millennials pretending as much either.
Yeah, and I mean, for a lot of folks, like the lockdowns matter more than COVID itself and inflation. And you know, with them talking, yeah, like the GOP fumbled the ball because they should have been saying we want Nuremberg trials for the people that like shut down businesses and arrested people who tried to make a living. They pretended like it didn't even exist. Millennials still talk about that. Millennials still remember that.
Well, the millennials are the ones who got crushed from that, because at the time during COVID, millennials were predominantly filling some of those, I'll say, lower income, lower skilled jobs. Now, granted, this was also Gen Z was starting to get into the marketplace more, but millennials were still filling a lot of those.
Millennials themselves not only lost like a good chunk of their net worth, they also started accumulating not only in excess of $2,000 in credit card debt, which is already the national average, but they have it more than, let's say, their parents' generation, even Gen Z. So not only were they carrying more consumer debt, but they were also carrying the burden of student loans, and they're also carrying something called phantom debt, which is undetectable. It's with those, Klarna apps and everything where you can pay things off with a lower interest rate across like 12 months. Like millennials are
buy now, pay later.
Pizzas. It's ridiculous. Like we are just piled on with so much debt itself. I think the average net worth for somebody between 25 and 30 right now is somewhere between like negative $5,000 and like $2,000. Wow. Like that is sad.
Well, and let's take it a step further. Not only do we have all those debts and stuff, but we also are the ones facing all the expenses, right? Yeah. If you're a millennial, you're probably trying to start a family. Okay, so what do you need to start a family? Probably need a place to live. Important. So let's look for that. Oh, housing prices fucking skyrocketed over the past 4 years, 5 years. Why? Government policy. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Government, for printing trillions of dollars arbitrarily overnight. That didn't have any negative consequences. So there's number one. Okay, so how you can't get a house. Okay, great. What else we need? Food. You need some food. Start a family. Oh, that's right. Inflation. Grocery store prices are through the roof as well. I forget the guy who shared that one video, but it was a Walmart order from 2019.
His pickup order. He was like, "This was my pickup order from $120
in 2019, $400 in 2024."
Insane.
Okay, so there's two. What's the third thing? Oh, maybe childcare. Childcare. Where I'm in little old Indiana, $300 a week to have your kids seen. That's a mortgage payment for some folks just in childcare. So not only are the millennials now facing all these debts and all these negatives, now you're going towards, well, we're trying to build something new. Oh, we can't. we can't get a house. We can't pay for our bills. We can't pay for our kids being able to go to daycare. Like, what do I do? And that is where I think a lot of millennials are. And frankly, Remso, this goes to why I think we're seeing such an intensive focus right now on millennials, on younger voters, starting to say, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to get out. I'm going to vote. I'm going to get involved. And Scott Presser out in Pennsylvania specifically, I mean, he's doing the Lord's work, man. He's going around. He's getting folks to register and vote early. I know our buddy Cliff, he's doing stuff out there for the PA Chase. But I mean, right here, big things are happening in PA. We're seeing younger voters and voters across the board switching party affiliation, either just dropping the Democratic Party in mass, or they're actually switching to the Republican Party. That's happening. It can't be ignored. What's your perspective, Remso? Do you think this is actually going to stick? Do you think these younger voters are going to stick to their new realignment? Or is this one of those things where it's a one election thing, 2026, they're right back to where they were, just drinking the Bernie Kool-Aid and Obama Kool-Aid?
I think it's really sad how quickly we are, to forget things, because, we go ahead and we memory hole stuff like crazy. I largely think, and, I'm happy that I watched the RNC, because I actually got to see the changes and I actually got to see the faces there. When you and I spoke last week, I said that the old Republican Party is dead, good riddance, because it did nothing for us. I welcome this new GOP. I largely hope that
you said old Republic, and it made me think of Star Wars. I had a sales meeting the other day with a guy who literally worked. He was like their IT and customer experience guy for BioWare.
Where was Knights of the Old Republic 3? Did you ask him that? Where's Knights of the Old Republic 3?
Yeah. Yes, actually, yeah. He had some feedback, but I am not have the ability to disclose this on a nationally syndicated podcast. So I'll tell you off air.
You can't tease that and then not say anything.
Yeah,
nothing else matters now. I think that my big worry was, is it the party of Trump? And when I say that, does that mean that when Trump leaves, that
the party goes
that the party goes with it? And I think largely that the party has changed so much. It will matter when he's no longer in, because he wins in November. We got him for 4 years, then it's over. my worry is that they drift back to the old things that don't matter. And one of the things that actually gave me a bit of hope was when Trump, during his speech, actually called out George Bush for the wars in Iraq.
South Carolina. That was one of the best moments on TV I've ever seen. And actually, you know, candidly, Remso, that was one of the moments for me as a voter back in the day. I said, there might be something more here to this Trump fella than I realize.
Yeah, the fact that that Donald Trump is back, the man who didn't even compete in the primary debates is back, and that he called out George Bush to a RNC collective, and
with George Bush's brother standing right next to him on stage.
Yeah, like that is a big thing, and I think that, you know, they've got to. We can't act. We can't, even right now, even with everything going on of this cycle, we can't act like we need to rest on our laurels. We can't act like this is permanent. We can't act like this is just a forever thing. You know, this stuff is going to take dedication. And, you know, the worst thing that can happen is after, you know, he wins in November and Republicans have a majority across the state for state legislatures, and they have a Republican House and Senate, is that they do what they did in 2017, and then they just like fumble amongst each other arguing about Ryan Care and stupid shit like that.
I forgot about that.
Then, yeah.
I
remember that because like that was a big thing, and we just memory hold that thing. It's like, I hope that people remember how much effort went into this, because everything Scott Pressler does could be undone in the one election cycle. Everything that Cliff Maloney has done could be undone in one election cycle, because people need to take the batons and figure this out. And we need, you know, we don't just need like a PA chase, for example. We need a Wisconsin chase and everything else. I know that Scott Pressler's Early Vote Action and Turning Point Action, Tyler Boyer, all these guys are trying to make it so that way this isn't just a one and done thing. People get involved. They look at the issues that matter to them and then make the align. Don't look for the Republican answer or the Democrat answer. You know, I've been a split ticket voter my entire life. Trump was the first Republican I ever voted for. And this is one of those situations where we can, you know, we can be selfish about our vote and have these people stop taking people for granted.
Oh, and I've said this 1.5 million times on this gosh forsaken podcast, Remso. It is to meet people where they're at on the issues they care about. It's not to lead with your solution, not to lead with your features and benefits. It's to just show that you fucking care, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what people wanted to know, that you actually care about their ideas. This goes back to what we were talking about with the millennials, right? Like that's why they're starting to pay more attention, because they're just looking for folks who actually are hearing that I have an issue and you get it. You understand my issue. Now, that doesn't mean that just because you understand it, you can solve it. But at least I feel that you're hearing me out, that you're not just like completely poo-pooing my lived experiences, what I'm literally seeing, touching, feeling every single day. Millennials are so tired of that. And like, I think where millennials are specifically, like, this isn't to exclude Gen Z. Gen Z, though, feels kind of nihilist, man. Like they've grown up in this only internet era. And there's no real, like, before the internet community that had been built. And I think, you know, millennials have a very unique ability to live both in our current world, but also we do have, despite the memory holding, we do have an understanding of what things were like and how different things were. And we grew up during the advent of all this new technology, and we kind of experienced it from where we were to where we are today. So we've seen things that the older generations didn't get to see in detail like we did. And on the flip side, we've seen things that the younger generations can't appreciate because
I remember 9/11.
Yeah, I remember 9/11. I remember the just insanity, the chaos that was happening during then. I remember the Iraq War. I remember the war in Afghanistan. I remember the housing crisis. I remember the Great Recession. All these things that happened. And Gen Z, you know, they were just apples in their mom and dad's eyes. I
had a friend come over to watch Jorge Masvidal box Nate Diaz, and he brought his son who's about to start his freshman year of college. And I was just bullshitting with him. I was like, hey man, like, what was it like to learn about 9/11 in a textbook? And he was just like, I mean, that was really bad. And I'm like, Yeah, it was really bad. But like, what else do you have to say? He's like, man, I don't know what to tell you. I wasn't even born.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, dude, there's just something to be said. And I'm not sure if you have this experience, but like when 9/11 happened, even though we were kids, I remember where I was. I remember what I was doing. I was like, what, 9? Somewhere in there. Like you and I were probably like 9, 8, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
That like ballpark, right?
First grade. I was in
Yeah.
Mrs. Aiken's first grade class at First Baptist Elementary. And I remember my mom, because my dad was active duty Army at the time, my mom pulled me out of school in the middle of the day. That's what I remember.
Yeah, I was in line. I was in the hallway. And I remember the art teacher, she was in the hallway talking to another teacher. And then like some student who was a senior, and I was like in 3rd grade, comes running through the hallway. Oh my God, they just ran planes into the World Trade Center. And like as a kid, I'm like I don't know what they were called, like a Cessna. Like in my head, I'm like a little tiny plane. And like one of my buddies and I were like being silly. You don't have no idea when you're 9 years old, right? And then you go to the classroom and all of a sudden like the teacher has the TV sitting in front of the room. You're like, oh, we're going to watch The Magic School Bus or Bill Nye a Science Guy. And then it's like, oh no, America's under attack. And that was
children.
Well, and this right here, right? Like we got to experience that. And there was a feeling there's something you just can't put into a textbook to paint that picture. But Remso, I know we're going into the weeds here with 9/11, but let's talk as we go to our last story of the day, talk about how it makes you feel. What would you say if you found out that sea cocaine was almost taking out an entire species of porpoises? What would you say to that?
I've been waiting for this my entire life.
Is that what you would say? Oh, that's not right. There we go. How sea cocaine brought the world's smallest porpoise to the brink of extinction. Remso, what's this article over on Vice? And did they do this on purpose?
So during the pandemic, I was trying to find anything I could to try and make money. This is not going where you think it's going. I had some pretty crazy ideas. Okay. And when this article came out the other day, a friend of mine messaged me and was like, what have you been doing? So for the record, I do not ship cocaine via dolphins from
anymore.
I never did. Oh. However, what the cartels have been doing is they have been training dolphins to carry cocaine to the United States. Now, what happens is those dolphins, sometimes the packages get undone or they get exposed to the cocaine. So what it does is it messes and fries with the dolphin's brain. And then when these animal rights groups and these humanitarian groups try and put them in like a refuge, they're hyper violent. So they can't be around like other dolphins or else they just like kill them and stuff. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to go to a country with lax animal rights laws and adopt these dolphins and have an opportunity for people to fight them? And I was going to call it Cocaine Dolphin Thunderdome. And I found like 3 countries that would allow basically this inhumane, horrible practice. And I say it's inhumane, but I was also willing to make money off of it, because here's the thing. These dolphins are going to die because their hearts and everything, like they can't handle it. Like they're just like slowly dying and they're ultra violent and they kill everything that they get around with. So I was like, listen, get some millionaires to go to some Central American country no one cares about and have them pay to fight these dolphins in like a pool that's like chest high, and you get some weapons. So that way people get to do this weird shit that like Japanese businessmen get to do in that movie Hostel, but these dolphins get to go out warriors. With that said, what also happens is that when they're pushing them through these submarines and everything else, and the cocaine explodes because of pressure or something else, it gets in the water. I got really into sushi this past year. Like I really love sushi now. And now I'm having to read all these things about like arsenic and toxins and metals and stuff and sushi. And I'm like, I chose the time to start eating raw fish for fun now. But now it's like, you're telling me that cocaine in the ocean is not only killing these endangered porpoises. I'm thinking, shit, I might be having like a yaki tuna roll or something or some yellowfin, and I might be getting a buzz. Like, some people would pay a lot of money for that. Me, I'm not looking for some secondhand snow dust. You know what I'm saying, man? Some like Bolivian cocaine. I'm sorry, some Bolivian Bam Bam or whatever it's called. So, you know, what started off as a joke for me 4 years ago is now turning into a possible nightmare. And leave it to Fox News to find us. I'm sorry, leave it to Vice News to find a story about dolphins and cocaine. Only they could do that.
So Remso, if we have any investors who are listening today, Remso's Dolphin Hunger Games,
Thunderdome,
or Dolphin
very
Thunderdome.
Specific. Cocaine Dolphin Thunderdome.
I hear an opportunity. You can monetize this a bunch of different ways. You could do Dolphin Thunderdome. You could do Dolphin Hunger Games. You could do Dolphin WWE. Like, there's a lot. Or Dolphin like UFC. Paul Dana White.
Yeah, like what was like a famous dolphin, like from SeaWorld or something?
Flipper. Wait, no,
like
Flipper.
Mad Flipper.
Yeah. Was Flipper a dolphin?
I know Free Willy was a
killer whale. I think
he was a killer whale, which it's only a matter of time until we start hearing about like cocaine whales. Like I read a story the other day that even sharks, like they're finding cocaine in like the bloodstream of sharks now.
So this is the equivalent of us millennials with all the microplastic in our testicles.
Dude, now I understand.
Sharks have cocaine in their bloodstreams.
Now I understand why people in like Miami Beach are so happy. They go in there, they get a little bit of water in their mouth, and they're just like, feeling a little un pollo loco. Yeah. It's
mix the cocaine and the microplastics. You got a winning combo there, it sounds like.
Yeah. Beats nicotine and like Teflon.
Nicotine and Teflon. All right. On that happy note, Remso, I know we're getting close to wrapping things up because you have a hard stop, and likewise, I have to get to some meetings for today. So that means we are going to go towards our final thoughts. Remso, my final thoughts are quite simply this: millennials, you cannot. You can complain. No, you cannot complain if you do not get involved. I'm just so. Pardon my language. I am so fucking sick and tired of this excuse. I'm sorry. Like if you are upset at the way things are going, you got to get involved. But I don't care about politics. Well, politics cares about you. Whether you like it or not, politics is going to impact you in some way, shape, or form, whether implicitly or directly. You have to stay vigilant. You have to get involved. And like, I'm just so frustrated when I hear folks who are very nihilist, like, oh, what does it matter? What more can I do? You can do a lot. You can get involved. You can show that you actually care and you're paying attention, because once you show you care and you pay attention, that means the people who are seeking to get your vote, they realize you're aware. They realize that you care and that you're paying attention, and they have to start speaking to you and your concerns and why you're paying attention. So please, my one ask to millennials, get involved. Don't just sit there and say, oh, the world sucks, and then do nothing about it. Yeah, it's on us to actually be the change we wish to see. That's my final thoughts. Remso, what do you have for us on your end?
Cocaine Dolphin Thunderdome coming to Shark Tank. Kevin O'Leary, I'm looking at you.
Call it Dolphin Tank? I like that idea.
Yeah, take Cocaine Dolphin Thunderdome to Shark Tank. All of them will want to bid.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. How about this, Remso? You and I will wrap up here. We'll reach out to Mark Cuban, see if we can get some initial interest gauged, and then Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, see what he says. I think he might be more willing. He seems like he's more of a free market guy. Let some stuff get tested in the market. Get some cocaine dolphins, cocaine sharks. Heck, let's throw a cocaine bear in there. I'm all about that. Let's have some fun. Remso, I know we got to run. Amen. Where can folks go ahead, continue the conversation with you on the social medias, should they be so interested?
Really trying to get people over to my Instagram. That's GoRemso, GoRemso. And you can argue with me about, the ethics of animal rights and everything on X at Hey Remso, HEYREMSO.
Hey Remso, go Remso. Either way, just don't call him late for dinner. You can find yours truly on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram at Nichols Liberty. For the show, you can, if you're joining us here live today on Friday, this is our first live show. We are going to be doing this every Friday. We're going to do a quick, probably hour-long or so episode, just covering some of the stuff that we talked about over on AMP America throughout the past week. So if you enjoyed this type of episode, do me a favor. Please, number one, head down below the comments. Let us know your thoughts from the episode. Give this episode, if you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, wherever it may be, Twitter, give it a like, give it a heart, give it a thumbs up. And then also, if you could be so kind, if you like to listen to the show kind of at your own time, that's how I like to listen to podcasts, by the way. Head to your favorite podcast catcher, Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. hit that subscribe button. And of course, make sure you check out every week. We have 3 brand new episodes hitting your inbox, hitting your podcast feed. So we appreciate all the love and support you give us. And one final plug, and that is to please support the folks who support us. And that is our phenomenal sponsors like Amp America, Cardio Miracle, Evil's CBD, Liquid Freedom Energy Tea, and more. They're the ones who help us keep the lights on. So please go ahead and give them some love. With that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up today. We had over 100 people concurrently watching our first live stream throughout the episode. So hello to all you wonderful folks out there. Enjoy your weekend. But with that being said, Brian Nichols signing off here on the Brian Nichols Show for Remso Martinez. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.